Good morning, everyone. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. Hope you guys are all doing great this morning. I'm having some echo that I'm going to try to figure out. What else is new? There's always something going on. I do hope you guys had a fun morning and are off to a great start. Happy Friday. And I don't know why I have an echo. I might have to take my headset out. And it's kind of funny because I was playing with it last night and I probably messed something up. But you know what? That's okay. I for today's show. Good morning, Allison. Hope you're having a good Friday. We have Colonel Joe Adams joining us at 8 a.m. Can't wait to hear from Colonel Joe Adams. And we've got a lot to talk about today. And hopefully I remember it all because I forgot my notes on the other side of the room. So that's okay too. We will figure it out. But I don't have a lot to talk about today. There's additional inauguration prep. I want to touch base again on that story about the Wagner PM because I think it's kind of interesting that he's been released. He's not still being held. So, we leave it to the Biden administration, of course. Not surprising. And we're going to touch base on that. I want to talk about, you remember Pastor Jason Biggs? Pastor Jason Biggs, at one point, he is the person who had a psychic revelation where he had a vision and he saw that this assassination attempt against Donald Trump was going to take place. And I mean, to the T, and I'm going to play that video for you here shortly. Well, he's had a new psychic vision, and I think it's pretty interesting about what maybe could potentially happen in our future. And it's interesting because it lines up with pretty much everything we've been talking about over the past so many days. And some of the things, I got to take this headset out. I don't know why, but I have a echo. I'll have to put it back in when Colonel Joe Adams joins us at 8 a.m. But in the meantime, it's just really annoying to hear my own voice echo in the headset. And again, that's probably because I messed with it yesterday. It was perfectly fine. You know how they say, don't mess with something that's not broken, just leave it alone. And I was looking at this headset and well, it's not a wireless headset. I do have a wireless headset, but these little headsets are actually very expensive. And I got this at Best Buy, and it's supposed to be the best they make. But I have had nothing but problems with this headset. Nothing but problems. It's like it echoes. And then yesterday I noticed there was like little buttons on the backside that I hadn't seen before. So of course I had to press them. You see buttons and you don't know what they're for, so you press them. And now I have an echo. Good morning, Linda. So those are just some of the things I want to touch base. Yeah, and I'm glad you guys don't have the echo. It is definitely just on my end. And it's done it before. It's not unusual. But when you're used to being in radio or in podcasting, you're used to hearing your own voice in your headset. So it's strange to not hear that. When I way back in the day, gosh, many, many, many years ago, when I started out in radio, I remember it was so weird to get used to hearing my own voice in the headset. I hated it. And I would always I still wear one headset out and one in. I can't stand to have both of them on. But I've gotten used to it over time. It's also caused me some severe tinnitus, but I have gotten used to it over time, and now it's weird. Good morning, Patrina. Good morning, Rick. So good to see you on our comment line this morning. Again, Colonel Joe Adams joining us at 8 a.m. I don't know about you guys. Do you believe in psychic predictions? I do. I absolutely do. I think that humans, and I don't think it's devil talk, or I don't think it's demons. A lot of people do believe that. I think that we as humans, there's a lot going on within our intuition. Everybody's had those experiences where you've thought of someone and then they appear, or you were thinking of someone and all of a sudden they call you. Or I know back in the day when we had landlines that everybody used, you would think, oh, I'm going to pick up the phone and call somebody, and then they were already on the other line and it hadn't even rung yet. I really think that that's our intuition talking. And Pastor Jason Biggs, his intuition might be a little bit stronger than some of us. Good morning, Dottie. Dottie says, were you one of those kids that put a bobby pin in the electrical outlet? No. Otherwise, I probably still wouldn't be here. I'm very scared of electricity. Good morning, Michelle, hope you're doing well this morning. And so Pastor Jason Biggs, I'm going to play the video for you here in just a second of just a very small portion of that video of when he first had his psychic vision that Donald Trump was going to be potentially assassinated, or there would be an assassination attempt. Because in his vision, and I'll let you hear him say it for himself, it was just interesting because he saw the red wave coming. He saw this out of the different battleground stage, which is true. And all of this took place. And then he saw it to the degree where he saw the assassination attempt and the bullet coming very close to Donald Trump's ear and how he got down on the ground. And then he said he would become, he's already a saved person, but he would become a more, I don't know what the word for it is, but he would become more of a born again Christian. And it's kind of interesting because everything he saw is true. Good morning, Sherry. Patrina says, some are super intuitive and it is real, especially if you normally connect with people well. It's so weird that you say that. I've had so many weird psychic things in my life. I am not a psychic. I swear to you, just yesterday, I was talking to someone on the phone and she said, gosh, I smell winter. Or she said she smelled, I can't remember what the evergreen or wintergreen or something, or mouthwash. She said, gosh, I have such a strong smell of mouthwash. And she's like, but she didn't know why. And I'm like, well, that's weird because I just put on some wintergreen chapstick and it smelled like mouthwash. And maybe just weird coincidence, but awfully strange. And, I know one time I had a dream and good morning, Tammy Jerry Hoover. I had a dream, and in my dream, and I've talked about this before on the show, I heard 1,000 voices screaming at me in my sleep, in my dream. And they kept saying, be prepared, be prepared. That's the only thing they said was be prepared. And in that dream, it woke me up because it was so obvious, be prepared. And in the dream, what I saw was a war. And I was looking out a window and I could see, bombs, landing and different things going on. But then I woke up and I thought, gosh, what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to have a war? What's going on? And I felt that the dream was very important because it was so clear that they wanted, whoever these voices were, wanted me to take it in. Hey, be prepared. They said it over and over and over. And, to the point where it woke me up so that I would remember it. And then right after that, I talked about it on the show, whatever show I was on at the time, because it was such a strange dream. And then right after that, my son's father passed. Well, first of all, my brother passed away, and then my son's father passed away. And then I thought, gosh, was this dream trying to prepare me for the turmoil that was about to take place in my life? Even though in the dream I saw this wartime scenario, I don't really know what the dream meant or if it meant anything at all, but I feel that it did. I really feel that it did. And this is the same for Pastor Jason Biggs. Very different scenarios between my dream and his. But I want you to listen to just a small clip of the dream he had. This is a very long video, so I'm only going to play a very tiny portion where you hear him talk about Donald Trump. And then you'll see how accurate his prediction is. And he has a new prediction. And it reminds me a lot of the Oklahoma City bombing. And that's something we've talked about lately. He talks about how, I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 10 minutes long, but he talks about what was it? He talked about Iran and Soleimani and how Iran obviously wants to avenge their general's death. And I don't know if I'll play it that long, but we'll see. Monica, we have been in a war since you had that dream. Isn't that the truth, Monica? Man, the world is crazy. So I'm going to play a clip from the prior
Bring back
psychic vision.
America, because the Lord told me, he said, I am not done with America. Amen. He said there's going to be a new wave of patriotism coming out, and that's whenever I saw Trump, and I saw a red wave coming out of Michigan. And then I saw Oklahoma, and there was embers of people, and they were all on they had torches all throughout Oklahoma, and they were raising up these torches that looked like fire, and they were bringing forth a new patriotism upon the nation. And it was being birthed, and it just kept spreading like fire all throughout America, all throughout. And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting, and then there will be a great economy crash. Yeah. I saw they had a great economy plan, a crash. Yeah. Worse than the Great Depression. And the Lord warned me about this. It would be a great dark time. But I saw paddles coming upon America's soil like a shocking of the soil. And I saw Donald Trump praying in the office of the Oval Office. And he was weeping before the Lord with his hands on his head like this, but he was weeping. And there was ministers and people. I don't know if they were senators or Congress people or whatever. I just saw them pacing and back and forth inside of the White House.
So that was the first premonition that he had, the first psychic dream that he had, and it was pretty interesting because this happened a long time before the attempted assassination on Donald Trump, and it's pretty interesting because it's pretty to the point, isn't it? Pretty to the point. You know, there's no way that this Pastor Jason Biggs could have potentially made this up ahead of time, and then, it happened. I don't believe that. Good morning, Paula. I think there's something to that. Now, me personally, I do think that God speaks to us through what some people think are psychic abilities. They blame it again on Satan or the devil, or I don't believe that. I think that God finds a way to talk to us. And in this particular case, I think he reached out through Pastor Jason Biggs, and he told him what he saw, and he told him, hey, go out and tell the people, what we've seen. And of course, coming back to God. And I thought that was interesting. I'm going to play just a little clip again of the first or one of those mornings of the next clip. This is recent. This is very recent, what Jason Biggs has now seen. And it's 10 minutes long. I'm just going to play a minute of it, and then a couple minutes of it.
Worshiping and just praying like I normally do, y'all. And all of a sudden, I was like, poof. And I told my wife, I said, get the phone. You got to record it. I could see, and it was the vision was putting all out in front of me. And I saw farming equipment. I saw massive farming equipment that was, it looked like on the East Coast, this farming equipment was. And there were silos. And the Lord said, I want you to focus on fertilizer. And all of a sudden, it was like everything was coming at me very fast. And I could see these men buying lots of fertilizer since this summer over the course of quite a while. It looked like I could see. So you're not able to see the vision. So I have to describe what I saw. I forget, y'all. So bear with me. I saw trees. I saw leaves on the trees. I saw the summer grass growing. It was hot outside. And I saw these men collecting fertilizer through different places so that they would not be detected. Okay? It was like different locations buying fertilizer in bulk as much as they could without drawing suspicion. That's the way I would say it. And so these men were buying this fertilizer, and so they were storing it. And I saw massive dump trucks with separation of in the back of these dump trucks, separation with 50-gallon drums, all filled with different kind of chemicals to make what was happened in Oklahoma City back in the 90s. Okay? This happened in the 90s. And it was a massive thing, not black powder, but this fertilizer stuff. And I saw fertilizer in in a big dump truck. And the dump truck
was like a big diesel that looked like construction workers. They had purchased a massive construction vehicle, like dump truck thing, and they put all this in so that it would cause a major catastrophic event. So they made the front of it armor-proof, bulletproof. Like you could not like shoot it and to make it stop it. So like very, very strong armor was on the front of this truck underneath it. So it wasn't able to be seen really well. Okay. And I saw these men, and this is going to go a lot of different places. Okay. So you have to just listen to what I'm trying to tell y'all. I saw these men with these vests on in the front cab of the truck, vest on, and they had explosives on these vests, and there was 2 men in the truck, and they took the truck and they used it to go through police barricade and military barricades in Washington, D.C. And when they did this and they tried to stop them because they were trying to do it at a checkpoint to stop them, they pushed through the barricade because the truck was very strong. And then they got them, they surrounded them, and they ignited their vest, and they took out everybody. And when this happened, it was a massive crater in the dirt, in the ground, and all the buildings were completely wiped out. And they tried to get.
All right, I'm only going to play a couple minutes of that because we're going to have Colonel Joe Adams joining us at 8 a.m. and that's a 10-minute long video. But I'll go over some of the highlights and I will share that to social media later. Telegram in particular, I don't know if Facebook will allow me. I can put it on X for anyone that wants to see the entire psychic vision of Pastor Jason Biggs. It's pretty fascinating. Allison says it's interesting that the Chinese largest drone maker, DJI, has removed geofencing from its drones right before the inauguration. Maybe that's why so many Democrats are not coming to the inauguration. Good morning, Phyllis. Allison, it is strange. It certainly is strange. And who knows what everyone's up to? Who knows? There's a lot of things going on, I think, ahead of the inauguration. And I think there's going to be a lot of foiled attempts. And Monica says, Scary, I hope this is not the inauguration. Monica, I was thinking about that too. Pastor Jason Biggs, when he had his prior psychic vision, it was 4 months before Trump's attempted assassination in Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, I think that's Butler County, Pennsylvania. And so that was 4 months before. Now, the only reason why I don't think that this is related to the inauguration, although I do know and I have heard that psychic visions are not always 100% accurate, but Pastor Biggs goes on to explain that it was very hot and that he could see the green grass. And we know right now at the inauguration, it is very cold, it's snowy, it's very wet, it's supposed to rain and snow. And so the environment doesn't seem like it would be the same as what the vision stated. But what's interesting about it, even Colonel Joe Adams just mentioned the Oklahoma City bombing last week. Do you guys remember that? We were talking about terrorism and how 2025 is going to be the year of terrorism. And it's so interesting that he brought that up and how we don't always know what to look for when it comes to terrorism. We always expect to see somebody who looks Middle Eastern when it comes to terrorism, but it can be a white person. There's a lot of white people out there who believe in ISIS and who have extremism views that are even sometimes veterans from the military. Good morning, Bill. And Dottie says possible weather issues for DC on Monday. I really hope that they decide to hold the inauguration indoors. We talked about that before. I think there's going to be like 25,000 police officers in Washington, D.C., nearly 8,000, Army reservists, some active duty troops that are going to be there. There's going to be a lot going on. Joanna said, I thought he said it was hot weather. Yeah, that's exactly right. He did say it was going to be hot weather with grass and they were gathering the fertilizer. So I don't think that his vision pertains to the inauguration. Now, Patrina says, let's see, she shared a message about drones, having moved them to town in Ohio. Yes, there's a lot going on. We've talked a lot this week about the Wagner mercenary. Remember that from the Wagner group, a Russian guy he was caught on January 4th sneaking across our southern border. He had with him, and I didn't know this before, he had quite a few thousand pesos. He had $4,000. We talked about that, 2 passports, and he was detained by Border Patrol, and he had the drone in the backpack. Well, I learned yesterday that he was only detained for a short time. He was charged with criminally entering our country, and then guess what? They released him into the United States. So, which is really strange. It's really strange. Jay says it won't happen. It's going to be record-breaking crowd, and Trump thrives in that. Yeah, you're right. He is certainly looking for a record-breaking crowd. Good morning, Karen. And so the vision, and Robert says the vision can still be true. It's the time of the event that is hard to determine. The vision could be for 2 or more years from now or tomorrow. Yeah, we don't know. And I'm going to tell you, we've got a couple minutes before Colonel Joe Adams joins us. And again, that was a 10-minute long vision video that he talked about his vision. And there was a lot of other things he gets into. When you have time, you'll have to go back later and watch the entire speech by him. So these are some of the things that came out of it from the parts that we didn't see. And he said that, of course, now he had this vision while praying. He was not asleep. He was praying. His vision, it included hundreds of men buying fertilizer at various locations not to be detected. And, maybe his vision will serve as a warning that this could happen on the East Coast, hundreds of people coming out and individually buying fertilizer. And he saw massive dump trucks, of course, with 50-gallon drums filled with various chemicals, and also white cargo vans filled with barrels full of fertilizer. They were parked in various parking garages throughout New York City. Now, we didn't see that in this clip I played, but that is something he goes on to say. And he said they were planning to take out every Trump tower and every Trump golf course throughout America, all in the name of what? I mean, this is crazy because we've been talking about this. Iran's Cusimani, remember? Or sorry, that's Soleimani. Cusimani, I think, is the Italian guy. Soleimani, General Soleimani, that of course, we assassinated. And then it said he saw 1,000 men from another country coming out of dark tunnels underground to the surface to cause chaos. And we know there are tunnel systems all throughout the United States, and particularly underneath New York City and Washington, D.C. They could be coming, of course, under the tunnels across our southern border. And Lori said, let's see here. I believe that these Americans that are involved with ISIS are the same people that joined cults in the 70s. They feel detached and want to be part of something. It's so sad. It is sad. And something that he goes on to talk about are lone wolves, people who are acting alone. They're part of a bigger organization, but they're acting alone, when it comes to these fertilizer attacks and some of the other things he envisions in our near future, here in America. And Daddy says, let's see, they spread out the purchases over locations, amount to raise not to raise suspicions. Yes. And Paula says it's a warning that we need to pray over and also be vigilant. And that's the most important part, is that when you hear these warnings, a lot of people don't take these things seriously. They say, oh, that's just one man's psychic vision. It really doesn't mean anything. And I don't agree with that. I believe in psychic visions. I do. I believe that God speaks through people. And here, Jason Biggs, he's a pastor. 4 months before the assassination attempt against Donald Trump, he saw it to the T. You guys heard the video. He saw the bullet whiz past his ear, and they saw him crouch on the ground. And they saw that he had, this radical, born-again Christian mentality that came out of it. All of that is true. It's everything he envisioned in that past experience came to fruition. And so therefore, I think we can believe that this vision may also come through to fruition. And we know right now we are under such a state of alert when it comes to terror attacks. Look at right now what's going on with the inauguration. They have FBI drones and helicopters flying drones, which is kind of funny, flying in a grid pattern over Washington, D.C., looking for dirty bombs. And it's kind of funny because we've talked about that a lot, haven't we, recently with all the drone sightings, that they might be looking for dirty bombs. Well, what they're doing right now is they're mapping out Washington, D.C., looking at the different radioactive signals that are coming from the area. And they're going to map that out to what it looks like now. Then the day before the inauguration, the day of the inauguration, they're going to go back in this grid pattern and they're going to look again to see if anything has changed. And I think that means, I really do think, and we've talked about this, and if Jay's here, but he's going to say it's more doom and gloom. But it is, we're going to have doom and gloom until day one after that inauguration. And then we're going to have a joyous celebration when Trump writes, he's got over 100 executive orders he plans to sign on day one. Over 100. It's going to be pretty crazy, pretty crazy. But I hope that you guys all go back and listen to Jason Biggs' full interview and hear out his entire vision, because it's pretty fascinating. And I think with everything that's going on right now, Iran pledged, they said they would get even with us over the killing of Soleimani. And of course, Trump was our president during that time. And so there's no surprise that that could potentially happen. And, but more than anything, we've talked again about that Wagner mercenary. Now, Wagner Group, typically, I've always felt like the Wagner Group, that they're fighting on the right side of things. They've been over in Syria fighting against ISIS. One of the keys to, in this particular situation, to knowing that Assad was about to flee the country and that he was, going to lose his position there and lose his country, was when Wagner Group was seen exiting Syria. Everyone in these intelligence communities kind of said, okay, Wagner Group's leaving. That means they've given up the fight against the terrorists. They have officially lost. And of course, they're fighting for Russia over in Ukraine, against everything that's happening to the Ukrainians, Ukrainian Azov battalion, of course, who are, whether you believe it or not, they are absolutely communist. They wear swastikas. They are Nazis, and they were holding the people of Mariupol and some of these other people in the eastern region as hostages. They were persecuting them for their, religious beliefs, for their Russian Orthodox religious beliefs, as well as just being Russian speaking. So Putin, of course, whether you feel this way or not, going into Ukraine to liberate those people who had been persecuted for 8 years before Russia's special military operation. And so that war began long before it officially became a special military operation, and Wagner Group fighting for Russia. But now we have a Wagner Group member right here in the United States, been released by Border Patrol. We're going to bring in Colonel Joe Adams. I'm going to put my headset back in, even though I'm echoing. And happy to talk to Colonel Joe Adams today with the Washington Guard. And let's see if we can grab him here. Oh, I had him. Good morning, Colonel Joe Adams. If only I can get you added here. How are you doing today?
Another day in paradise. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Just always some little technical issues to work out. I don't know if you heard us talking about Pastor Jason Biggs and his premonition of an Oklahoma bombing style terror attack, and you had just mentioned that last week.
Well, yeah, but people think that terrorism is based on Middle Eastern people and things like that, but that whole world's changed. You're going to have extremists right here in this country that are born and bred in America. They get so pissed off or get so mad at the government, it's their way of striking back. So just because a person is not from the Mideast, it doesn't make him a possible terrorist. It doesn't make him not a possible terrorist. I hear a lot of crazy stuff from the veterans and stuff about everybody, an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth and stuff like that. And I said, look, you better drop that. We had a gun show recently where a well-known Democrat politician came in to shake hands or whatever, and there was some idle rumors going around where whenever we talked to the guys, and I said, look, this guy's welcome here like anybody else, and that's when maybe it's time for an eye for an eye. They were laying for this guy, and I intervened and said, no, we're not going to have that on my watch. So people are pissed off.
Yes, they are. There's no question about it. And, Colonel Adams, I keep referring to 2025 as the year of terror, because I think the threats against us, as a country, as a Western society, are greater than they have ever been. These people, they don't want to see Trump win, because they know Trump actually does fight against terrorism, unlike the Obama administration or the Biden administration, who created groups like ISIS.
Yeah, and I guess most people probably watched Joe Biden's farewell, whatever that was. I mean, it got nauseating. But for the first time during his administration, he finally told the truth, and most people missed it because they misinterpreted what he said. This man is so dumb, and his handlers are so dumb that he was warning America about the loss of democracy and the fact of the oligarchs and the tech people's becoming a military industrial complex. You know what he was talking about? He was talking about his administration. They liked that. That's what they were doing. And all of a sudden, everybody changed sides. So Joe Biden finally told the truth for the wrong reason. So thank you, Joe Biden. And what he said was actually true. But that was their plan. That's not Donald Trump's plan. That was the Democrats' plan. They liked war. They liked war. War makes money that cannot be accounted for, money that disappears. People, the wrong people get assassinated for all the wrong reasons. The Democrats liked the chaos. That was part of their plan. And the one thing that sticks with me, and I try and watch as many of these interviews as I can. And of course, Biden continues to make interviews. No one has still asked him, why did you open the borders? Where did you think that was going to go? Meanwhile, our border czar, Kamala Harris, is missing in action. I spoke with Border Patrol late last night to ask about the traffic coming across the border as of yesterday. They said nothing's changed. They're still processing between 2,000 and 2,200 a month and releasing them into this country. It goes on.
It's shameful.
No one has asked him. How'd that work out for you, Joe, opening the borders? Well, it worked out exactly like they wanted. They wanted chaos. They wanted mass numbers. They wanted illegal registration for voting. All of these things played into their plan. And guess what? It's coming to an end real fast. Now, Donald Trump could spend the next 4 years just working on that problem alone, let alone the economy and all the other things. And people, unfortunately, because Donald Trump's been elected, are starting to develop some kind of lackadaisical attitude, like everything's going to be fine, and they do nothing. No. Now is the time. This is a ceasefire. The Democrats are going to be reloading their ammunition, whatever that is, repositioning their troops. The war continues. It's just we're in the middle of a ceasefire because of Donald Trump. So don't let down your guard. Back in 497 BC, a famous philosopher, one of the most famous philosophers in the history of this planet, his name was Confucius. And Confucius said before he died that if a person does not plan for dangerous events in the future, eventually those events will show up at your doorstep. And that's what we teach with the Washington Guard, that just because there's a ceasefire, the war is not over. Continue to prepare. We have the advantage. Not only during a ceasefire, the Democrats are repositioning their troops. Now is a good time to even get more ready. Can you be too ready? No. Get more ready. Bad times are not over.
No, I feel like they're actually just beginning, because as we've talked about so much on the show, the Democrat regime, while they may seem peaceful and while they may say there's going to be an easy transition of power, we know that's not true.
Oh, absolutely. And somebody just commented the battle's just beginning. Yeah, it is. You think we've been through some tough times? Tougher times are coming because you got to take a stand. Now, that gentleman you had on who did the premonitions and sees these things.
Pastor
right.
Jason Biggs.
I don't have premonitions. I have almost 55 years now in the intelligence industry, and I read indicators. And most of the time, the indicators are right there in front of you. You just don't see them. Well, I have an ability to read the indicators. And all these indicators are coming at me right now saying, now's the time to prepare. Now's the time to prepare, because bad times, I'm telling you, are coming.
They are coming, Colonel Adams. And, speaking of preparing, I think the biggest fear most people have is, how do you prepare for something like this? Because terror can attack at any single time. You can be at a movie theater, or you can be out shopping at the grocery store, or at a sporting event. How do you prepare for something like that outside of never leaving your house, which we can't give into?
The foundation of being prepared is situational awareness. Be aware of your surroundings. This is not Never Never Land anymore. This is the real deal. We're being attacked on all sides, and that's fine. But you've got to prepare mentally and physically for what's coming or what could possibly happen. So it starts with situational awareness. Understand that we are under fire. Understand that there are groups out there right now planning to kill our new president. All of these things will eventually get into even urban America. When the terrorists have got the attention of the government about major sports events, things like that, with sort of mass events as far as slaughtering innocent people as terrorism, they're going to move to urban America. So I hate to scare people out there and be Dr. Doom all the time, but I'm just telling you the way that it is. All the indicators, the more lackadaisical the population gets, the easier they are for being targets. You got to prepare. This is
We do have to prepare.
We're in pre-survival mode right now, and you don't even see it.
I agree, Colonel Adams. I read yesterday that there was a report released. Now, this was back from 2022, so the numbers are a lot higher right now, where they said there are 490 million guns owned by Americans. And you would think that if we can all come up with a plan, a strategy, we could defeat any type of attack against our country. And by the way, I want to add, in Pastor Jason Biggs, and what he goes on to say towards the end of his video, which I didn't play, is that a lot of these terrorists are paid for by the Biden administration.
Oh yeah, sure. Dark ops. Believe me, the Democrats and the Biden administration in their black ops people are going to be part of the terrorist problem. It's just that the terrorists, the Democrats see the terrorism now as just as an avenue to further harass our new president and to hurt America. It's all about power. They don't care about America. When you saw those, when they were interviewing going to be our new Attorney General in Shigray, they were concerned about, would she prosecute Liz Cheney? Well, that's not what they were saying. They were saying they'll throw Liz Cheney on the bus just like they did Joe Biden 4 years ago. What they were actually saying was, are you going to prosecute me? Because if they prosecute Liz Cheney, they know they're next. And that's why they're all they don't care about Liz Cheney. They'll throw her under the bus too. You watch and see. So anyway, it was interesting watching them trying to grill that lady, the new Attorney General, because she.
Oh, Colonel Joe Adams has frozen us. There he's.
That's why you're here. You're here. I found it rather interesting. The Democrats continue to do why they lost the election. There's an old adage that says you can fool all the people some of the time and fool some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. That's what happened. They didn't go by adage in history. You can't fool all the people all the time. And the Democrats' policies, the Democrats tried that, and guess what happened? And they're back to square one.
No question about it. Now, Colonel Adams, I wanted to go back and talk about this. When you joined us last week, we had talked about the situation in Tustin, California, where a group of individuals broke into a training academy, a training base, and they took 3 Humvees, one of them being armored, and then they also took some medical equipment, some machine gun mounts. And at the time, I really didn't know what to think about it. You thought, more of a nefarious situation. I was thinking maybe it was a prepper trying to prepare for what's coming. But then we found out that this Wagner group mercenary who was a Russian-speaking man, came across our southern border illegally on January 4th. He had, again, a backpack containing a drone. He had $4,000, a couple $100,000 in Mexican pesos, and he had 2 passports. Well, the Border Patrol held him for a couple days, but then they released him into the United States. Now, why is a member of the Wagner Group carrying a drone illegally across our southern border? Why? And why would we release him?
That goes back to the White House. The White House said to release him. But understand, about 8 months ago, the Wagner Group broke up into splinter groups. So let's say I have a second in command, one of my commanding officer, and he decides he has another agenda that goes counterproductive to what my plans are. Well, some of these officers within Wagner have split off and took fire team. When I say fire teams, that's like 5 people, have taken certain people with them, and basically they're not the Wagner Group anymore. They're private contractors and mercenaries.
Right.
That's
exactly right.
Let me tell you why they stole the 3 Humvees. Okay. This was called a logistical one-way mission. So the reason they stole first of all, I've got a military Humvee. That's what I drive. Okay. You don't have to steal them. You can just buy them. Okay. So the reason they stole the Humvees to move the merchandise that they were stealing. Those machine gun mounts are very heavy. So what they did was a perfect scenario. We don't have to bring in a truck to steal things. We'll just steal the trucks and haul this stuff out. Perfect scenario. That's what happened. Is that linked to the Wagner Group? No. Are Wagner short of transportation? No. But that was a great robbery. And no one's figured out, why would you steal a Humvee? It stands out in public. Really? I've never been pulled over with my military Humvee.
Right. You're absolutely right. And you know what, Colonel Adams?
They didn't need the Humvees. They used it to transport what they just stole. That's all.
Which would make sense. You know, what was interesting about this particular Wagner mercenary is that he had just and he is part of the splinter group that you're talking about. He had retired from Wagner Group, and we don't know where he was before, but he had just completed a combat training mission to learn how to combat in urban warfare just prior to coming across our southern border.
Well, he didn't need to be educated. He is the educator. Like I said, one person's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So when terrorism starts, terrorism is a form of guerrilla warfare for different reasons: to topple a government, to disrupt the government, to disrupt our way of life. And that's what this first initial things with terrorism in this country. Yeah, they want to do a lot of damage, but they want to disrupt the American populace where they couldn't live their daily normal life like they were before, to put pressure on the government. As far as the Middle Eastern terrorists, to put pressure on the people, to put pressure on their government, to get our butts out of the Mideast. They want us out.
They do want us out. We're there illegally. We were in Syria illegally. They didn't invite us there. You have to invite a country there to fight your war for you, and we just took it upon ourselves. You know, in this particular guy that was part of the Wagner Group, typically I always think of the Wagner Group as being on the right side. They've been in Syria fighting against terrorism. They've been in Africa fighting against terrorism. They're in Ukraine fighting against the oppression of the Russian people in the Eastern region. But at the same time, they're up for hire, and they're going to go to the highest bidder.
Well, I'll give you an example. When I work in, money does strange things to stranger people. When I was in Central America working with the CIA and came home, I got contacted by basically the mercenaries who worked for me that went into Nicaragua and performed combat operations. So these characters who were pro-American, great patriots who I surrounded myself with, when I came home, the leader of that group, who was my second in command, contacted me about robbing a gold shipment. And I said, what do you guys lost your mind and now you become criminals? They said, yeah, but there's a lot of money in that, Colonel. And I said, well, you can just keep me out of it. We have a plan. We're going to rob a gold shipment in Central America. We at least look at the plan and tell us what we're doing wrong. So I said, okay, that's fine. And I looked at it. They were going to commandeer gold ore trucks coming out of a gold mine down in Central America. Well, gold ore and gold bullion is two different things. So I
Very
said,
much so.
you realize how many trucks you dumbasses have to acquire to get 1 ounce of gold? I said, you guys, no, stand down. But they were going to rob a gold shipment, they said. But so just because one day a person's a patriot, money will do funny things to people.
You have that right. We see it happening around us every single day. I'm just curious, Colonel Adams, what you see taking place at the inauguration.
Wow. Well, we were invited, but we're not going. I can't.
wouldn't either.
Well, here's the problem I've got with the Washington Guard. I can't go anywhere. If I would travel to meet a friend or a family member, like say in Tennessee, my team is, before I go anywhere, they have to know where I'm going. And so they calculate fuel consumption to our helicopters here, because if I'm stuck in a situation where I can't get back to command the Guard, they come get me. So what I try and do is limit the areas where I go and the distances, because the hassles it would take to come extract me to get me back to my base is quite elaborate. So that's why, first of all, I'm not going to the inauguration. I'm not going to inauguration parties. Been there, done that. But now I'm in a situation where I have to stay with my community and with my people in case there is an emergency. So that's the number one thing. Number two, I know now that we're talking about a six-layer perimeter around Donald Trump. And the last two perimeters are invisible. They won't even know they're there. I don't want to get caught up in that. I really don't. I think it's going to be a great thing. I hope they pull it off. They're prepared. But at the same time, we have people within the old administration who would like to see it turn into chaos. I find it very interesting. There's a ceremonial lunch with the new president that all the prior presidents are supposed to go to.
Yeah.
None of them are. Why aren't they going to lunch with Donald Trump? Now, I understand that, Michelle Obama's not even going to go to the inauguration. Well, I through my sources, Michelle's got some prostate problems, and she's not really, doesn't feel up to it. So,
Colonel Adams, yes, the former presidents are going to the swearing in at the inauguration and skipping the lunch, which is, from what I understand, unprecedented. But that just goes to show sore losers. So much for the peaceful transfer of power. Or do they know something?
I can't take the chance. I'm responsible for too many people in this community. I can't take the chance. So I hope it goes well. But if something doesn't go well and he's harmed, there's a good chance this country will come apart.
And quickly at that.
Yeah, I don't want to see open season on Democrats just because of their political beliefs, even though they're wrong. So anyway, so too bad for Michelle.
Yes, highly unfortunate.
Hey,
we were just talking about it yesterday.
Hey, I'm all over the charts. I know that. That's what I do, and I talk to the right people in the right places. Can I address the water issue in California? Would that be okay?
100%.
Well, the answer is right there in front of California for the last, since when I met with the Joint Chief in 1981, and he told me about what's happening now. So our government knew in the 80s, in the early 80s, about the eventuality of what's happening now in California. Southern California does not have the water base it takes to maintain that type of population, let alone letting these people build these houses when they know it could be a firestorm at any time. The problem with Southern California is the groundwater, which is water that comes in naturally from snow melt and from rain, does not resupply the underground water. So to be a successful community and self-sufficient, you have to have water, right? Well, for decades now, the surface water is not replenishing the underground water that we use. Uh, so it's inevitable that the population's doing it and the politicians let the population do it. Now, this is a horrible thing I'm about to say. Horrible. They shouldn't rebuild at all. If it's gone, it's gone. If they want to continue a society out there in a community that is self-sufficient, then they shouldn't rebuild. That's a terrible thing. I mean, if I was stuck out, of course, I wouldn't be caught living in California, but they can't support that. Now, 65% of the Southern California's water does not come from California. It comes from the Colorado River. When I was training the special ops for the United States government, that's the Green Berets, the Marine Force troops, even some Air Force guys, surprisingly. When we were training them to go to the Mideast for the first time, that was because of oil. That came from the Joint Chiefs to me, like, why are we doing all this? And then the Joint Chiefs said, son, you don't understand. Someday states will go to war over water. So how long is Arizona and Nevada and Colorado going to keep giving up the one thing that all societies need, and that's water? 65% of the water used in Southern California doesn't come from Southern California. Nature is telling them you cannot support the population that you have and continue to grow if you don't have any water. What's going to happen when Arizona and Nevada are running dry and Colorado's running? I said, guess what? We're shutting off the water. No more water. Water wars.
That's absolutely right.
You want to see what
the privatization of water in some of these areas.
You want to see what a civil war looks like? Picture a water wars between states. When the federal government's got nothing to do with it. Now federal troops got to go in and calm the storm. But California cannot afford, in Southern California, cannot afford to continue this. But it's the politicians is that's okay, move here, move here. No, nature's saying, you screw with Mother Nature, that's the wrong enemy. Every once in a while, Mother Nature will slap you in the face. Oh, guess what? We told you this. You knew the answer, and you did it anyway. So,
yeah, Democrats don't listen to common sense. They mess with Mother Nature on a regular basis.
And some of those reservoirs in the Colorado River has dropped 10 stories of water that they can't replenish. The desert out in Arizona used to be a paradise until about 1025 AD. Everything started drying up and the Indians left. Nature changes. They'll blame it on global warming. Yeah, if it wasn't for global warming, we'd still be in the ice age. It's Mother Nature.
That's exactly right, Colonel Adams.
You look at Mother Nature and follow Mother Nature. If you don't take them, you're going to suffer the consequence.
Well, weather is cyclical. We can look back at history and geological formations and see that we've had periods of extreme heat, periods of extreme cold. Where I'm standing right now at one time was a glacier, and now it's beautiful natural springs about 4 feet under my home. And, they say that there's a point where Phoenix and parts of Arizona will be completely uninhabitable, that right now in certain parts of the year, if people didn't have air conditioning, they wouldn't be able to survive there. And so there's a lot going on, of course, in California. That reservoir was empty for over a year, even after multiple warnings that it needed to be filled. And, you can't think that they don't do this stuff with some type of motive. I don't believe anything is by accident or coincidence. They've now arrested, I think it's about 12 arsonists throughout these various fires that are now arrested. And of course, they arrest them and release them. They don't hold them accountable for these fires. But Colonel Adams, Governor Newsom already has a plan in place about reimagining the Malibu and Palisades areas. And, people in California are absolutely infuriated. The fire is not even out, and he has a plan.
He's a joke. He's a typical politician. He knows the problems. He's been briefed on these water problems, and yet they continue to do it because they're only doing it for their own benefit. They don't care about the people. When those politicians tell you we really care about you, they're liars. They're liars. Very, very few patriots in this country are politicians. Very few. They're in the low percentage. So I don't. That's why I stay out of politics. And somebody chimed in. Why don't they turn seawater into drinkable water? Well, that's a good question. Why not? What do you think? What do you think the submarines do out there functioning? They're underwater for months or a year at a time. They process the seawater. That's possible, but is there any money in that? That's the thing. That's the question. Who's going to profit by that? I mean, there's a good chance if they start doing that, the price of water in Southern California will go up 500%. Now your water bill is more than all your other utilities combined. So it's a catch-22. But anything that anybody related to Nancy Pelosi, I don't trust to begin with.
And nor do I. Things have been crazy in California anyway. I have a couple of friends that lost their homes in, the Palisades fire in Malibu, and it's a terrible situation out there. And we have to think about, when it comes to rebuilding, how much of that cost comes back to the taxpayer, in particular taxpayers in California, but then us who have to pay insurance premiums that continue to rise because they have so many fires. Every time their homes are burned down, they go back and rebuild in the same area.
Well, it's already started. I spent the better part of a day last week with the Franklin County Sheriff in conversations about where the Washington Guard is, where we're going, our plans for 2025. And somehow we got segued in off to about insurance policies and stuff. So he just got recently, just coincidentally, just got his new insurance bill from, he owns a few properties here in Franklin County. And his insurance from last year till this year just went up 45%.
Wow.
It's already started. 45%. So what do you do?
To the point where we
insurance?
Afford it.
Say again?
It'll get to the point where we can no longer afford to insure our homes and our vehicles.
Right. How comforting it is to go to bed at night knowing your house might catch fire because of no water and you have no insurance. Now that's very comforting. That is not the American dream. That's the American nightmare.
Right. And look what's happening in North Carolina, where obviously it's just a big land grab. The same thing is going to happen in California. I just read a story yesterday in North Carolina where a guy had a $300,000 home and they won't allow him to rebuild. FEMA won't allow it. So they're going to buy his land for pennies on the dollar. And he has no choice but to sell it to them. There are no other options. And he's not covered by insurance because of the type of weather event that it was. The insurance says they're excluded, by these acts of God, in these landslides. And, these people they're without a home. They're not going to be reimbursed for any portion of that home. And FEMA eventually, it could take a year or more to buy out their land, again, for pennies on the dollar. And that's going to happen in California too.
Well, let me tell you about FEMA. So it started about 2 years ago, about a year ago hard. FEMA no longer has the personnel or the finances to support catastrophic events here in the United States. So I got tipped there's a new sheriff in town. It's called Rubicon. So Rubicon is a spinoff of FEMA. So, and I just saw them for the first time surface in the fires in California. So now we've got actually two FEMAs by nature, one by name, and the new one is called Rubicon. I know the former Marine who's in charge of it. And so they've already predicted FEMA can't handle it anymore. And FEMA's drawing a lot of heat. Right now, Rubicon's clean, but watch for that name, Rubicon. They are the new sheriff in town that works with FEMA and adjacent to FEMA.
Interesting. Good guys or bad guys? What side of the fence are they on?
Well, based on leadership right now, they're good guys, but you know how that changes after a while. FEMA, one of the higher ups in FEMA is a friend of mine, and he says FEMA is a scam. It's a money laundering machine, and that comes from a guy who actually works for FEMA, and they're not just not in a supervisory level. It's not somebody just that a volunteer or deployed. When they were processing the Afghans at Quantico, that was FEMA, but they actually people from Franklin County went there, paramedics, medics, EMTs, and they deployed working for FEMA, making twice the money that they would make by being home. FEMA overpays. And why is that? FEMA is so corrupted in different ways that they're coming up with a new system, and it's called Rubicon.
You have to keep an eye on that. I hadn't heard anything about that. I'll have to do some research on that. And Jay Saunders says, screw FEMA. They are complacent in the lithium mine buyout. I am not a fan of FEMA or any of these other groups, even the EPA. Trump's nomination for the EPA, I can't recall the guy's name. He is for global warming. He said he's not going to necessarily honor those policies, even though he has the ability. But our salvation is coming. Donald Trump, first day in office, has 100 or maybe over 100 executive orders ready to sign. And I think we're going to see a big change in everything we talk about here. Everything's going to change.
It could be a lot easier if the Democrats would get on board. Now they're running around with their tail between their legs. And like I say, Donald Trump is a power source. Donald Trump has turned the power back on without flipping the light switches. We don't know if the lights are going to work yet. So picture a 500 room, five-star hotel. It's blacked out. Donald Trump got the electricity going again, but now he's got to go to every room and turn the light switch on. And there's a lot of rooms. At the same time he's doing that, the Democrats behind his back will be cutting wires and pulling ground wires and crisscrossing wires and cutting to anything they can do to hurt him. Like I say, this the 4 years alone that Donald Trump's being in office, it could be full-time his attention just on the illegal immigration and the crime in this country. He's going to be fought all the way. But see, he's only going to be able to do what he's allowed to do. Supposedly.
And that's unfortunate. That Democrats have to fight against his policies. I just saw a friend of mine was posting on social media, and they were a Jewish person. He was so happy about the peace deal that Trump has made between Israel and Hamas and how the hostages will be released. Now, none of that has happened yet. I think we all know any ceasefire is short-lived because these people want to kill each other regardless of Trump's ceasefire. However, he went on to say that while he was happy about this with Trump, he was going to fight every policy he had going forward. He's like, okay, so he did one good thing. I don't understand it. I see what Donald Trump does, and it's good, common sense policy. How can Democrats not see that?
Well, never confuse common sense with politics. So, when did we start negotiating with terrorists? Why are we doing this? Okay, now we've always negotiated with terrorists, even going back to the Ronald Reagan administration, because I was stuck in the middle of that stuff with the Iran-Contra scandal. So we've always done that. We're not supposed to, but our policy's been we don't deal with terrorists. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I think and here's another mistake Biden did. He admitted on TV that this plan that they have in place now, he's had it in place since May. Really. And so all of a sudden on your way out the door, he's taking a lot of credit for this release of the hostages because he had that same plan back in May. Why didn't he activate it? I mean, come on.
Well, and he still didn't, Colonel Adams. What's happening right now, this ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has nothing to do with Democrats, nothing to do with Joe Biden. The plan has been in place. He just didn't act on it. Trump is the person who worked out this ceasefire and this plan, and he's going to do the same thing between Ukraine and Russia. But 100% this was Trump. Now, Biden can take credit for the release of the hostages, but this is 100% Trump.
Well, he can take credit for the border situation too. Okay. So anyway, I mean, I was there for 12 years. I understand what's going on. So nobody knows the border better than I do. Anyway, I know you're busy. I'll let you go. I appreciate you having me on.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, let's the Washington Guards still flying their flags upside down on their jackets. Not this one. I bought this one. So, and then as of Monday at 1300, command will go out to raise our flags correctly, and hopefully we don't have to go back to half-mast because they've hurt our president. But now understand that the flags after the inauguration will go back to half-mast in federal buildings, and that's because of Jimmy Carter's death, not because of Donald Trump. I hope it's not for both. So we'll see. People, everybody should join the Washington Guard. Now, I'll probably, if everybody did, I'd be eating those words, right? But remember, if you join the Washington Guard, you are no longer alone. Good night. Love you all to death. See you next Wednesday.
Thank you, Colonel Joe Adams of the Washington Guard, for joining us today. Everybody reach out, WashingtonGuard.com. And yes, let's all run out and join, because you know what? Safety in numbers. Have a great weekend, Colonel Joe Adams. And I don't know if I'll be able to turn him off. I've been having some technical issues, which you guys can probably see me working on here. Colonel Adams, I'm trying to turn you off, but it may not happen. But you can still disappear from your. If you close your computer, you'll disappear from us.
That's
but
okay. That's okay.
I'm having some technical issues here. I was having a really hard time throughout the show pulling things up. There we go. Nope, still with us. I'm trying, and oh, there we go. Nope, he's back. I don't know what is wrong with my computer, but all right, there we go. Sorry about that. Well, whenever Colonel Joe Adams first joined us, I almost couldn't add him to the show. And it's something to do with my laptop. Every time I click on a button, it just does absolutely nothing. The light flickers and nothing happens. And this is a new laptop. So I apologize to you all and to Colonel Joe Adams for making him stay a little bit longer there in the hot seat. Either way, we'll carry on. I can't see your comments right now, but I'm going to keep working and pressing the button. I don't know if you guys could see me when Colonel Joe Adams was with us. I was over here feverishly pushing buttons because I can't see anything. And so I was doing my best. I'm going to do my best again because I can't pull up your comments right now, but I'll keep trying. But yes, Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. So happy to have him, especially on a Friday. If you want to reach out to Colonel Joe Adams, you can do that at WashingtonGuard.com. Go to their website. You'll be able to find their contact information, safety in numbers, because we know we're heading into some crazy times. And while we're all looking forward to the inauguration and Donald Trump becoming our president, another 4 years of saving America, as he calls it, the golden age, of course, making America great again. Just as Colonel Adams said, they're going to fight us every step of the way. That is not going to change, and they're going to fight harder. And some of the things we're talking about when it comes to terrorism, and before Colonel Joe Adams joined us, we played the video from Pastor Jason Biggs, who was talking about the premonition that he had, the psychic vision that he had. And again, if you go back and watch the entire thing, he goes on to say that while some of the terrorism he sees is from Iran, a lot of it is from the Biden administration, from our very own government, which is really terrifying to think about. But that's how Democrats play, isn't it? I mean, nothing really new there. And I apologize. I'm still trying to turn your comments on. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I don't know why I'm having these issues today. I've never had this issue before. But either way, we'll carry on. So that was something that I wanted to talk about today. I still don't understand why our government allowed the Wagner Group mercenary to come into this country and with a drone. The drone can be for a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything nefarious, although I would feel that it probably is. Now, some people use drones for their own protection. Where is this person going? He came into our country. They held him for a couple of days. They released him. He probably has a place to go, people to house him, or he already has housing here. Members of the Wagner Group are fairly wealthy. They make a lot of money being a private, member of a private paramilitary group. So that's something to think about. It may or may not be nefarious. They could be here to fight ISIS in our country because they've had a long-standing battle with ISIS, but they're gonna fight for whoever is the highest bidder, whoever that might be. And I apologize, I just can't get my comments to come up. So if I'm not reading them, I do apologize. I'm trying. I'm getting rid of some things, but then other things pop back up. But at least it's Friday. We can all head into a nice, peaceful weekend, contemplate our future. And of course, Donald Trump has those 100. Can you imagine 100 executive orders? What could they all be? We can all kind of guess and have an idea. But I know some of the things are going to, of course, get rid of DEI programs. We're already building the wall back up on the southern border. So that's a positive thing, of course. I know some of the executive orders are going to be about deportations. It's going to tackle the situation on our southern border. I've heard one of them is about deputizing people in Texas, citizens, to fight around the southern, not fight, but protect, at least be able to protect themselves or make citizens arrest. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of different things that come out of those orders. Most of them just reversing, of course, Democrat Biden policies, and something that's so necessary because Democrat policies, as you guys know, are destroying our country. For the most part, have destroyed our country, and we've got a big hole to climb out of economically, security wise. And I worry because, and I know Jay, I can't see any comments right now, but Jay, I know you're thinking this, that, oh, more doom and gloom. But, we've got to hold tight. There's a lot that could happen again between now and the inauguration. There's a lot that could happen at the inauguration. And I don't expect anything to happen. I think that security will be too tight. I think if there was somebody out there wanting to plan an attack, while that would be a great time to do it, it would also be a more difficult time to do so. But does it matter to these people because they don't plan on surviving the attack either way? So we have to remember that also. And then, of course, we had Pastor Jason Biggs and his psychic premonition. Now, of course, if you heard that part of the show, then you'll know he said that happens in the summer when it's hot. He can see grass on the ground and that type of thing. So, does the environment really matter when it comes to premonitions? I don't know, but I do believe in premonitions, and I believe that's something to think about. And I hate it that I can't see your comments because I had them and then they left. Had them and then they left. Darn it. By the time I pull them up, you guys will be gone. But either way, we've got a lot to think about, a lot of preparedness we ourselves can take. As Colonel Adam knows, we have to be self-reliant. That is number one. Because think about this. If you're self-reliant, none of this matters. If you put your faith in God, none of this matters. You have to put God first and your family second, and then make sure that you're safeguarded. For me personally, I'm already getting my garden in order. Starting on Monday, by the way, we're going to have a Monday segment about gardening. And every week, we're going to give some tips. And you guys can join in with me, give some tips about gardening and where you should be in the process. Because I'm trying to follow a guide because I'm new to gardening. And I was kind of looking ahead at the weeks to go. If you're here in the St. Louis area, our last frost is projected to be around April 25th, something along those lines. Most people wait until Mother's Day, but I did that last year and it was a bad move for me. I should have went ahead and planted sooner. And I didn't, and I ended up getting way behind schedule because we had all of that rain. So this year I'm not making that mistake. I'm going to pay attention to the frost schedules. I'm going to follow my weekly calendar, and I'm going to share that with you guys every Monday about what you should be doing now, whether that's getting your seed starting mix ready or ordering your seeds or inventorying your seeds. I'm in the process right now. I'm inventorying my seeds, trying to figure out what I need to order. I'm going to get those orders placed, get all of my materials together. There are some things that you can even start planting now, and I'm going to start some winter sowing, but we're going to get more into that on Monday. And that's important because that goes into being prepared for your self-reliance system that you're going to have in place. Because if you prepare your own food, You have your own water system, whether that's, portable water that you have in your home, or whether you're collecting rainwater, or, in my case, I have a spring and a well here. Those are all things that, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. If you can have your place of safety and sanctity and be self-reliant, that's number one. And I don't know if you guys heard, or whenever I was talking about weapons, and I'm still trying to turn your comments on. So if I'm talking but looking, and the report was from 2022, and it was released, and it said that in 2022, which is the last year this report, the data has been released, Americans had 490 guns. Think about 490 million guns. Million, don't forget the million. 490 million guns. Well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to have 490 million terrorists in our country. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, that we as a country have, all of these weapons, and think how powerful that makes us. And think why, of course, the government would love, not under Trump, but why they would love to come and take your weapons away, right? Because they know if there's 490 million guns in America, they don't stand a chance against us, not a chance. Maybe about those people who aren't armed, maybe those people who are against guns, they can have them, but us, not a chance. And I thought that was a very important report. And I hate that I can't see what you guys have to say about it because my comments aren't popping up, but I'll keep trying. Either way, that's about all I, had to talk about today. We've got a lot more to talk about on Monday. And I was very happy to have Colonel Joe Adams join us because I really wanted his opinion, on everything that's going on, in particular when it comes to terrorism in our country, the inauguration, and the situation in California. Again, they've arrested, I think it was hard to count the numbers, but I think it was close to 12 arsonists in the Los Angeles area, some of them being homeless, some of them not. One person in particular, a female, I don't know if she was homeless or not, but she said she intentionally started the fires because she enjoys chaos. Think about that. She enjoys the chaos that a fire causes. And I hope she never sees the light of day. But of course, it's California. They'll let her go. Another guy just said, hey, he likes the smell of burning leaves. Now, come on, are these people for real? Are they paid operatives? Are they members of Antifa? Are they just mentally ill or drug addicts? And, I don't know the answer to that. There's a lot of talk out there about, people who are, that enjoy meth and how much they like fires. So I don't know. But nothing happens by accident. Just keep remembering that. Nothing happens by accident. Everything we've seen unfold, everything we do see unfold in the future, there's all a purpose. You can connect the dots. I've been connecting dots for many years now, and I can promise you the dots do always connect. You just have to wait for all of the pieces to fall in place. And that's happening with these fires in California. It's happening with everything taking place in Washington, D.C. It's taking place along our southern border. And the fact that these terrorists are coming into our country, mercenaries coming into our country across the southern border. And, we only hear about 20% of the folks that cross the border because they only apprehend about 20%. So where there's one, there's many more. Think about that. One, there's many more. So at this point in time, I would be a little concerned about all those folks that have entered our country, and we'll see how things play out. All you can do, again, you put it in God's hands, do your best to safeguard yourself and your family. And outside of that, again, that's about all I have for today. I want to make sure you guys have a really great weekend. I cannot see your comments. I'm going to go back after the show and I will see them at that time and get a better idea what you guys are all talking about. And I will go back and reply to those. I'm going to post those videos from Pastor Biggs onto Telegram, onto X. I'll try to post it to Facebook. Sometimes now, of course, they have these new censorship rules, so maybe they won't get me for posting that. But I'll tell you, it's about 10 minutes long. Listen to the entire thing. And maybe you don't believe in the psychic revelations. Of course, being a pastor, these are, he says it's God that's coming to him. I know some people will say, well, it's a demon saying they're from God. So you take it however you want. Take it however you want. But either way, I think it's interesting to go back and listen to what he said, because his last premonition, just 4 months before the attempted assassination on Donald Trump, was to the T, exactly as it happened. And he knew this 4 months ahead of time. Very interesting. But I do hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. I will look forward to seeing you all on Monday. And in the meantime, I'll be keeping up this weekend, posting anything I come across on social media. There's going to be a lot going on this weekend ahead of the inauguration, ahead of Donald Trump signing over 100 executive orders in his first day. Can he even sign that many in one day? Might take a couple days to get that done, but I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of ripples that come from those. I can't wait to see it. It's what we've all fought for so long now, and here we are. It's finally happening, and we'll see how it all plays out. But again, hope you have a really fantastic weekend. I look forward to seeing you guys all on Monday.